I personally believe that Julian Assange will be very well looked after, and they will deliver him to President Trump. There's going to be some deals going on in the background that we're not going to see, but let me tell you something now, they will not dare harm a hair on his head, or his chin for that matter.
Hey guys, this exclusive interview is brought to you by our patrons and in part by Stem Enhance Ultra. Stem cells are your body's natural healing system. You get a cut on your finger one day and the next day it heals. How does that happen? It's your body's stem cells at work. Sad part is, by age 65, you've lost 90% of your adult stem cells, but now you may be able to boost stem cell levels naturally within an hour by 30% with a new plant-based capsule. Stem Enhance Ultra assists the body's inherent ability for long-term self-renewal by supporting the body's natural release of bone marrow stem cells. Everyone's chemistry is different, but for many, this produces a variety of benefits to help reduce the effects of aging. The product comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so visit their website at stemup.com. That's stemup.com. I'll leave the link below this video. All right, guys, this is an extremely important interview with breaking information. It's my pleasure to have back on the show Daddy Dragon, a.k.a. Graham Moore. We've had Graham on before when we've done the calls with the Anons, and he's a very lucid, informed activist. He comes to us from the UK, and he's got some breaking information regarding Brexit. Let me welcome Graham now. How are you, Graham?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thanks for coming on. And why don't we level set for people? Let's just rewind before we get to this breaking news. Let's talk about Brexit, where we are in the process, why Theresa May continues to betray the will of the people, and where this thing is. According to the mainstream media, the European Parliament will hold extraordinary session if UK approves Brexit deal. MEPs who have failed to get re-elected or who have retired would have to come back for one last time if Theresa May can get the deal passed by the British MPs. First of all, before we get to this breaking news, why is Theresa May hell-bent on not allowing Brexit to go through? Why does she want the British people to be ruled by bureaucrats in Brussels? That's my first question.
Well, the direct answer to that is because she is hand-picked and was hand-picked by the ruling elite. And I'm talking about the people above the glass ceiling who are never removed from power. We live in an illusion of democracy. And what people should realise, especially in the United States of America, was she wasn't technically elected by the people, apart from the last time, but she nearly lost. She very nearly lost. Originally, there was a leadership challenge within the party, and a number of different MPs either backed away, moved away, and then dropped out of the race and allowed her to take the position of Prime Minister. We, and that is people that understand what's going on, we don't call her Theresa May, we call her Treasonous May. I'm so used to calling her Treasonous May, it's just stuck in my head now.
Well, I think that's a great moniker for her, as it would be for Pelosi or Clinton or any of the other same type of puppets in this country. Let's talk about the Queen. Theresa May can't do anything or say anything without permission from the Queen. That's been established for many, many decades. These PMs, these prime ministers, are just puppets of the royal crown. And I'm looking at some headlines here, Graham. Britain has a Brexit emergency evacuation plan for the Queen. Has the Queen abdicated her authority, and does she also want to be ruled by bureaucrats in Brussels? Is this all part of the Illuminati one world government plan? It's a big question, but it begs to be asked.
Right, so the direct answer is yes. But again, Her Majesty was born into what she describes as the firm, and therefore she has took that position up. What I will say to people is this, that when she was crowned in 1952, basically she took an oath, and that oath is on both sides. So our military swear an oath to the Queen and country, and the Queen swore an oath when she took on the monarchy, and that was to protect our constitution, our ancient laws and customs and statute. So she cannot, because an oath is for the entire reign of Her Majesty. In other words, her reign finishes when she passes away. So therefore, she cannot never, ever renege on that oath. And currently, Her Majesty the Queen is called, in English law and under English law, it's called perjuring an oath. It's not like perjury in a court. It's far more serious. It's on par with, or actually above, treason. Perjuring an oath is the most serious thing anyone can do.
All right. I wanted to ask that question because I've long wondered what your answer would be, and those of y'all that are subjects of the British Crown. And that goes for people in Canada too, guys. You'll recall Justin Trudeau's swearing-in ceremony where he pledged his allegiance to Her Majesty and, as being part of her Privy Council, pledged to never disclose anything discussed in secret with the Queen.
I, Justin P.J. Trudeau, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I shall be a true and faithful servant to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II as a member of Her Majesty's Privy Council for Canada. I shall keep secret all matters committed and revealed to me in this capacity or that shall be secretly treated of in Council.
Her reach is far. She is a tyrant, and I guess she's hell-bent on making sure the British subjects that she commands remain under the watchful eye of global tyrants for the rest of history. So that's why this breaking news is so important. Something huge happened on March 29th at 11 p.m. Graham, you brought it to my attention. The mainstream media is ignoring it. Tell us what it is.
So the United Kingdom, in law, left the European Union on the 29th of March at 11 p.m. In other words, and in the words of Lord Chief Justice Denning, who used to be the Master of Rolls, he's now deceased, the law must be obeyed even if chaos ensues. And that was one of the things he said in a ruling where a lower judge had said in a court case that he couldn't allow something to happen which was against the individual's rights who was standing before him, because if he had allowed it, chaos would ensue. And it went to the higher court, and the highest lord in the land, judge in the land, in that case it was Denning. That's what he said. The law must be obeyed no matter what, because you can deal with chaos, you can't deal with a society without law and order. So what's happened, the brief is this, if you like, and I've got some documentation that I can show you as well, but the main brief is quite simple. That there was a situation in 2016 where someone called Gina Miller, who wanted to remain within the European Union, she took the British government to court. And in that court case, it was well versed what the powers of the executive government is. So that means the actual government that's in place. It means treasonous May and the people who sit in the cabinet. They have authority to exercise the Queen's prerogative. In other words, they don't have to go and ask the Queen's permission for everything that they do. But there are certain things that are outside the official nod through, if you like. And one of those things is to do with treaties. Now, what they come back with, and they said, we agree, the court agreed that this was not allowed under prerogative. So the executive must go back to Parliament, and the executive must ask Parliament to issue the withdrawal details. So they went, so Gina Miller won. The constitutional argument was placed before the courts, the Royal Courts of Justice, and they said this argument needs to be placed before Parliament. A consequence of that was we had an Act of Parliament passed. It was very simple. And that simple Act of Parliament was the European Union Withdrawal Act of 2017, which stated as the preamble. So the preamble is what I've just described to you. The preamble in law must describe what the Act of Parliament is doing. And it is very simple. This is an act for us to withdraw from the European Union. It then laid out a number of very small paragraphs, the date of which we are leaving, which was 2 years after Article 50 was enacted, which lies on the 29th of March 2019. That act was then, or received, what's known as royal assent. So nothing can become law in England or United Kingdom without it receiving royal assent. So Her Majesty signs and it goes through. So it received assent. What people should understand, by that law being passed, it had no other elements to it. The authority given by Her Majesty to the executive and to Parliament was to withdraw from the European Union on the 29th of March 2019 at 11 p.m. There was no elements in there that said, for example, we also grant permission if this happens to extend. We also grant permission to revoke. There is only one thing that law allows, and that was to withdraw on the 29th. It's the law of the land.
All right, I'm tracking with you now, and I guess the good news is this is being covered by the mainstream media in the UK. The Telegraph is reporting Theresa May's Article 50 extension is illegal and will be challenged in the courts. Now, of course, the Queen controls the courts. I'm not sure how far you guys are going to get. So tell us, what is the next step?
Right, so the court case, first of all, the Gina Miller case, and let me come back to that, Sean, because that's really important what you just brought up. They're actually not covering this case. They are talking to an MP called Bill Cash. He hasn't started a court case. He is just talking about a court case. This court case was started sometime back in March with what's known as the civic rules procedures, where you then challenge the government to come back to you in writing. If they don't respond, you then put in a judicial review request for permission. We've already done that. The Gina Miller case cost £1.2 million, but she was backed by Deutsche Bank, the European Union, and some very wealthy people, I may add. This has been us, the people, with $1 and $5. We've currently raised just over £65,000. Normal, everyday people. And I want people to understand something that a friend of ours says: you are the news now. You are the news. Well, that is exactly right. We are the news, and we've created this case and put it within the Royal Courts of Justice. So what happens is the judicial review, and again, all the paperwork I've sent you, the reason why this is an exclusive is because no one in the mainstream media, the Guardian, the Telegraph, the Daily Mail, the Express, have printed the grounds for judicial review or the detailed submissions of the barrister. So what I'm saying to you is they are not covering it, and Sky News, the BBC, it was wall to wall when it was Gina Miller, because they wanted to remain. But because this case is so strong, and let me just say to you, Sean, we've had two retired appeal court judges, both said we left on the 29th. According to this case, we have read it, they're right. Not only that, we've got a professor of law, English law, in the United States of America that has contacted me on Twitter and said, you're right, Graham. You left on the 29th. I've read that documentation. You're right. So what I'm saying is this information is being oppressed and suppressed by the mainstream media because they don't want people to know that everything our parliament is doing now is a con. and we left on the 29th. So the next step is we have been told that the government will respond to our judicial review. Wait for it, on the 17th. Now, the 17th is a nice number for me, as most people are aware, but the government are coming back and said they will respond on the 17th of this month, and then it looks like it's going to proceed to what's known as a full hearing. Again, we're raising money for that, but we know we have a very, very strong case, and it will cause chaos, because these people believed and believe that they can ignore the law, whereas the people have said, no, you're not. We will take this to the Royal Courts of Justice. We will present it to the judges, the Supreme Court, and most of the case has already been heard and agreed in the Gina Miller case. So all we're doing is pushing it forward and saying, well, what was good for the goose is good for the gander.
Well, we live in a world of double standards, my friend, right? And that's what the mainstream media shows us every single day. There's a double standard for the left versus the right. I guess at the end of the day, as it pertains to living in this country, it's nice to see Trump call their bluff and say, okay, well, you guys like open immigration and no borders and no wall. Well, let's just ship all of these illegal immigrants into sanctuary states and sanctuary cities. And the mainstream media does not like that narrative one bit. So you guys are up for a fight. And it seems to me, Graham, if this doesn't go the way it ought to go in the court of quote unquote law, y'all may be facing your own revolution, a revolution the likes of the one that we had, to free ourselves from the tyranny of the crown.
And Sean, I've always professed completely that we should never resort to violence. But under our constitution, we do have the right, if we exhaust all legal means and all lawful means, to a lawful armed rebellion. And I can see that happening. I mean, let me just put this to people, and I want people to understand what's going on. I've just come back from USA, from one of those sanctuary states, which is Washington State, from Seattle, and I see the difference between that area, for example, and Utah. But let me just say to you people that I landed in the US on the 30th of March. It was only this case that stopped me at the airport from claiming asylum. When you understand how passionate I am about this country and about what it is and our freedoms and our constitution, which is most important, I want people to understand they ignored the biggest democratic vote in history. They ignored the very voting people that put them in their seats in that parliament. They ignored the system that give them the opportunity to sit in that parliament. And again, on the 30th, I was going to claim asylum. It was this case and the progress of this case that stopped me from doing that. Just to make sure that for the last part of this fight, we carried on. This case has got all the makings of making global legal history.
Amen. And it's up to patriots like you, Graham. You could have claimed asylum. You decided to go back and fight for liberty and fight for the future of your country. And we're with you. We're with you in spirit. Where we go one, we go all. And that's not just a Q thing domestically. That's internationally. We the people stand for liberty and freedom. And the bureaucrats in Brussels oppose us at every step.
Thank you.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your time. And we'll get you back on as soon as you have another update for us.
No worries. Well, I'm actually going to the prison where Julian Assange is being held. I'm going to go down there now and speak to some people outside the prison.
Oh, terrific. Are you going to put that up on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, I will be.
All right. And remind people, how do they find your YouTube channel?
It's up there as Daddy Dragon. Other than that, you can see me on Patriot Soapbox on a Wednesday or Friday. And that's Eastern time at 3 p.m. till 5. Other than that, you can find me We the People channel with 412 and on.
All right. And real quickly, you mentioned Assange. It's my understanding that after he was taken into custody, he was immediately charged and convicted of not turning himself in. I'm paraphrasing. So what is the status as you understand it? The extradition to the United States may take a while if they're going to make him do time for what he's just been convicted of. What's your understanding on his current status?
Well, his current status is that he is being held in. Let me explain where the prison is. The prison where he is being held is the most secure in Europe. It is a prison within a prison. He is in what's known as the unit, which is what we call in England AAA. You would call it in America Supermax. He is under the most austere conditions ever to bestow a prisoner. Why it's legally right that he should be held there for a non-violent offence, and he's not dangerous to the public. So he's being held there. He is being held officially for jumping bail, and jumping bail for an offence that no longer exists. So the offence has been quashed, therefore he is being held for something where he shouldn't be being held. The extradition, I believe, personally, will happen very quickly. And my own personal views is that the UK government are absolutely terrified of Julian Assange because he has a lot to say, and I think we both know what he's got a lot to say about. But we're gonna open up a tin of worms that they do not want opened. It is my personal view that the United Kingdom, the British, have committed an act of war against the United States of America, and that's about to come out.
Yeah, and we know about GCHQ and
Correct.
working with the deep state. Look, here's the thing. My friend Liz Crokin, and I've also heard from Jim Willey, they're very excited about the arrest of Assange because they believe he's in the hands of white hats. I don't make that leap. My concern, as I've said since he was arrested, is that as long as he's in the UK, he's in grave danger. That's my personal opinion, because I think what you just said is 100% true. If there's discovery, if there's a trial, if he's allowed to testify, what will come out is the collusion and conspiracy to topple then candidate Trump, now President Trump, and the fact that the WikiLeaks Clinton emails were not hacked by Russians. They were provided to WikiLeaks by Seth Rich via Kim.com, I believe, and WikiLeaks working together to get those leaks from Seth Rich. That was the whistleblower. That's who got whacked. John Podesta's email said, more than happy to make an example of the leaker, suggested that they should make an example of the leaker, and then Seth Rich was murdered. That's why I think Julian Assange is in grave danger as long as he's in the UK.
Right, so there's two things I'll say to you, Sean. First of all, I agree with virtually everything you just said there, if not all of everything you've just said there. What I will say is this, and I want people to understand this. President Trump is not a politician. He is a businessman. And let me tell you something, he knows how to leverage any situation to benefit not himself, but the United States of America. And I personally believe that Julian Assange will be very well looked after, and they will deliver him to President Trump. There's going to be some deals going on in the background that we're not going to see. But let me tell you something now, they will not dare harm a hair on his head or his chin, for that matter.
All right. Well, from your lips to God's ears, we'll pray for Julian Assange, and people need to remain steadfast and alert as to his whereabouts, his condition, his treatment. We cannot let them whack another truth teller like they did Seth Rich. Guys, as we round this out, just think of the magnitude of what has just been discussed. If Brexit actually happens, if the UK, if the people of the UK can free themselves from the tyranny of the EU and the bureaucrats of Brussels, what a terrific day in human history that would be. And what a terrific day in human history it might be if Assange comes to the United States and is allowed to spill the beans about what he knows regarding the real conspiracy and collusion to topple our president. Guys, our guest has been Daddy Dragon, aka Graham Moore. Graham, thanks so much for your time.
No problem. Thank you very much, Sean.
All right, brother, keep in touch. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. You know, as YouTube changes the rules in the middle of the game, it really is astounding to watch my channel be decimated by the tyrants at YouTube. I had picked up 98,344 subscribers in the months of November, December, and January. That's roughly 33,000 new subscribers per month. This month, less than 2,000. And in the last 6 days, I've lost 120 subscribers. It's a strange thing when tyrants are allowed to run the world, because if they're allowed to get away with it, we all lose. So for real news 24/7, guys, please do visit us at sgtreport.com. Check me out at thephaser.com and thelibertymill.com as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for liking and sharing this information. God bless. Bye-bye.
Okay, so these are people specifically that are involved with crimes against children, pedophiles, child trafficking, and also they are directly connected with the Clintons.